නමෝ තස් භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස. නමෝ තස් භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස. නමෝ තස් භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස. ධම්මපද යමක වග්ගෝ මනෝ පුබ්බංගමා ධම්මා මනෝ සෙට්ඨා මනෝමයා මනසාචේ පදුට්ඨේන භාසති වා කරෝති වා තතෝනං දුක්ඛමං වේති චක්ඛං වවහතෝ පදං මනෝ පුබ්බංගමා ධම්මා මනෝ සෙට්ඨා මනෝමයා මනසාචේ පසන්නේන භාසති වා කරෝති වා තතෝනං සුඛමං වේති ඡායාව අනපායිනී අක්කොච්චිමං අවධිමං අජිනිමං අහාසිමේ යේතං උපනයිහන්ති වේරං තේ සංන සම්මති අක්කොච්චිමං අවධිමං අජිනිමං අහාසිමේ යේතං උපනයිහන්ති වේරං තේ සූප සම්මති නහි වේරේන වේරානි සම්මන්තිධ කුදාචනං අවේරේන ච සම්මන්ති ඒස ධම්මෝ සමන්තනෝ පරේචන විජානන්ති මයමෙත්ථ යමාමසේ යේච තත්ථ විජානන්ති තතෝ සම්මන්ති මේධගා සුභානුපස්සින් විහරන්තං ඉන්ද්‍රියේසු අසංගුතං භෝජනං හි අමත්තඤ්ඤු කුසීතං හීන වීරියං තං වේ පසහති මාරෝ වාතෝ රුක්ඛං වදුබ්බලං අසුභානුපස්සින් විහරන්තං ඉන්ද්‍රියේසු සුසංවුතං භෝජනං හි ච මත්තඤ්ඤු සද්ධං ආරද්ධ වීරියං තං වේනප්පසහති මාරෝ වාතෝ සේලං වපබ්බතං අනික්කසාවෝ කාසාවං යෝ අත්ථං පරිදහිස්සති අපේතෝ දම සච්චේන නසෝ කාසාව මරහති යෝචවන්ත කසාවස්ස සීලේසු සුසමාහිතෝ උපේතෝ දම සච්චේන සවේ කාසාව මරහති අසාරේ සාරමතිනෝ සාරේ චාසාර දස්සිනෝ තේසාරං නාධිගච්ඡන්ති මිච්ඡා සංකප්ප ගෝචරා සාරංච සාරතෝ ඤත්වා අසාරංච අසාරතෝ තේසාරං අධිගච්ඡන්ති සම්මා සංකප්ප ගෝචරා යථාගාරං දුච්ඡන්නං වුට්ඨි සමති විජ්ජති එවං අභාවිතං චිත්තං රාගෝ සමති විජ්ජති යථාගාරං සුච්ඡන්නං වුට්ඨීන සමති විජ්ජති එවං සුභාවිතං චිත්තං රාගෝන සමති විජ්ජති ඉද සෝචති පෙච්ච සෝචති පාපකාරී උභයත්ථ සෝචති සෝ සෝචති සෝ විහඤ්ඤති දිස්වා කම්ම කිලිට්ඨමත්තනෝ ඉද මෝදති පෙච්ච මෝදති කත පුඤ්ඤෝ උභයත්ථ මෝදති සෝ මෝදති සෝ පමෝදති දිස්වා කම්ම විසුද්ධිමත්තනෝ ඉද තප්පති පෙච්ච තප්පති පාපකාරී උභයත්ථ තප්පති පාපං මේ කතන්ති තප්පති භීයෝ තප්පති දුග්ගතින් ගතෝ ඉද නන්දති පෙච්ච නන්දති කත පුඤ්ඤෝ උභයත්ථ නන්දති පුඤ්ඤං මේ කතන්ති නන්දති භීයෝ නන්දති සුග්ගතින් ගතෝ බහුම් පිචේ සහිතං භාසමානෝ නතක්කරෝ හෝති නරෝ පමත්තෝ ගෝපෝ ගාවෝ ගණයං පරේසං න භාගවා සාමඤ්ඤස්ස හෝති අප්පම් පිචේ සහිතං භාසමානෝ ධම්මස්ස හෝති අනුධම්මචාරේ රාගංච දෝසංච පහාය මෝහං සම්මප්පජානෝ සුවිමුත්ත චිත්තෝ අනුපාදියානෝ ඉදවාහුරං වා සභාගවා සාමඤ්ඤස්ස හෝති ධම්මපද යමක වග්ගෝ නිට්ඨිතං නමෝ තස්ස භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස ධම්මපද යමක වග්ගෝ මනෝ පුබ්බංගමා ධම්මා මනෝ සෙට්ඨා මනෝමයා මනසාචේ පදුට්ඨේන භාසති වා කරෝති වා තතෝනං දුක්ඛමං වේති චක්ඛං වහතෝ පදං මනෝ පුබ්බංගමා ධම්මා මනෝ සෙට්ඨා මනෝමයා මනසාචේ පසන්නේන භාසති වා කරෝති වා තතෝනං සුඛමං වේති ඡායාවන පායිනී අක්කොච්චිමං අවධිමං අජිනිමං අහාසිමේ යේතං උපනයිහන්ති වේරං තේ සංන සම්මති අක්කොච්චිමං අවධිමං අජිනිමං අහාසිමේ යේතං උපනයිහන්ති වේරං තේ සූප සම්මති නහි වේරේන වේරානි සම්මන්තිධ කුදාචනං අවේරේන ච සම්මන්ති ඒස ධම්මෝ සමන්තනෝ පරේචන විජානන්ති මයමෙත්ථ යමාමසේ යේච තත්ථ විජානන්ති තතෝ සම්මන්ති මේධගා සුභානුපස්සින් විහරන්තං ඉන්ද්‍රියේසු අසංගුතං භෝජනං හි අමත්තඤ්ඤු කුසීතං හීන වීරියං තං වේ පසහති මාරෝ වාතෝ රුක්ඛං වදුබ්බලං අසුභානුපස්සින් විහරන්තං ඉන්ද්‍රියේසු සුසංගුතං භෝජනං හිච මත්තඤ්ඤු සද්ධං ආරද්ධ වීරියං තං වේන පසහති මාරෝ වාතෝ සේලං වපබ්බතං අනික්ක සාවෝකාසාවං යෝ වත්තං පරිදහිස්සති අපේතෝ ධම්ම සච්චේන නසෝකාසාව මරහති යෝචවන්ත කසාවස්ස සීලේසු සුසමාහිතෝ උපේතෝ ධම්ම සච්චේන සවේකාසාව මරහති අසාරේ සාරමතිනෝ සාරේචාසාර දස්සිනෝ තේසාරං නාධිගච්ඡන්ති මිච්ඡා සංකප්ප ගෝචරා සාරංච සාරතෝ ඤත්වා අසාරංච අසාරතෝ තේසාරං අධිගච්ඡන්ති සම්මා සංකප්ප ගෝචරා.
Theravada Sarnai. Welcome everyone. Now we are about to start for our lesson. We respectfully invite Venerable Bhante to conduct the class for me. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
නමෝ තස්සා භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්සා නමෝ තස්සා භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්සා නමෝ තස්සා භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්සා. Good morning everyone. Today we are going to continue our lesson from the place where we stopped last time. During last week, we talked about the non-REM sleep and how chittaja rūpas would arise during the phase of the sleep, a deep sleep. Not while we are dreaming and not while doing something else, but while we are in a deep state of the sleep. Then today our attention goes to how the relationship between bodily and physical actions, bodily and verbal action actually, there's a mistake here, bodily and verbal actions and the mind-born matter. Because mind-born matter, our actions according to Theravada teachings are driven by the mind. Every physical and verbal act that we do deliberately with intention are driven by the mind. And mind-born matter are involved in the production or in the execution of these actions. So therefore, we see a huge correlation between the mind-born matter and the actions that we do. So in this regard, there are few points to be given attention with the action, how to classify the action, how to define the action, and what are the instrumentally important elements of the body in Rūpa, and how they are being classified into categories based on their relationship. And next week we are going to talk about how chittaja rūpas and viññati are involved in the production or in the arising of the wrong view, which we call the wrong view of the doer, karaka ditti, which will be an interesting lesson. But today we are going to put the background or the foundation for that lesson. Bodily and verbal actions and mind-born matter. Unwholesome acts are categorized as kaya kamma, vachi kamma, and mano kamma based on the door through which they arise. Now, there are two ways of categorization of a particular action. Now we know there are three types of actions are threefold as kaya kamma, vachi kamma, and mano kamma, and there are two types of such kammas: wholesome kammas and unwholesome kammas. Wholesome and unwholesome kammas. Their categorization, threefold categorization, has two different bases. So the unwholesome deeds are categorized threefold, basically based on the do in which they arise, and the wholesome actions are threefold in two ways, due to two reasons, based on the do they arise and also the do they purify. So first we need to know this classification. We are not going to shed much light upon the purification side, but it's important to know that how actions are being classified in Theravada. So actions are threefold. Now first we go to akusala actions, unwholesome, akusala kammas are threefold as kaya, vachi, kaya kamma, actions done with the body, vachi kamma, and mano kamma. This is basically based on the body or the do of performance. Do of performance. It's based on the do which is involved in performing these actions. Then kusala kammas, on the other hand, kusala kammas are also threefold: kaya kamma, vachi kamma, and mano kamma, based on the do of performance. Do of performance. Do of performance. Then for the akusala kammas, we don't have the second categorization, second method. That is the do which has been purified. Purified do. Purified do. In this regard, kusala kammas are again threefold: kaya kamma, vachi kamma, and mano kamma. For example, now think about abstaining from. Now, a good example of kaya kamma is killing. We do the killing mostly using our physical body. Then vachi kamma, a good example is lying. We use the verbal words and the verbal do in order to deceive someone in most of the cases, not always, most of the cases. Then mano kamma, the actions done only through the mind, such as covetousness or cursing someone, ill will, and so forth. So this is how unwholesome deeds are classified based on the do they are performed, do through which they are performed. Then kusala kammas are also classified in the same manner based on the do in which they are performed or by which they are performed. Kaya kamma are the acts such as giving dana or doing the duties to elderly or anyone who is respectful, deserves respect. Vachi kamma, a good example is preaching Dhamma. Mano kamma can be meditation. Because in those three relevant acts, the relevant do has been used. Mind do, mano dwara, mind do is involved in all types of acts because every wholesome and unwholesome deed involves the mind, because it's triggered or it's done by the done with the help of the consciousness. Now think about the door of purification, kaya kamma. Now we do unwholesome acts like such as killing with the help of the body. And what about restraining from killing? When we abstain from killing, with which do we perform this act? in most of the cases, we do it mentally. We determine not to kill. Sometimes we observe precepts and say it verbally. Regardless of the do, in this case, rather than saying what do was involved in performing the act, we give our attention to the do which was purified by this act. In the wholesome side, when abstaining from killing, we don't let the unwholesome deeds to arise based on our body do. So body do is said to be purified, is cleansed. So cleansed. So the cleaning or the purification of the body do happens when we abstain from bodily wrong, evil bodily activities. That is the second way of classifying wholesome deeds. Now, if someone abstains from evil speech or using misconducts done with the speech, at that time, the verbal do is said to have purified. Either we have done it with only with our mind or using our words as while observing precepts, or with a physical gesture. If you have done it with a physical gesture, it doesn't matter. The do which is purified is taken here. Then all the other activities other than restraining from evil, unwholesome bodily acts and unwholesome verbal acts, all the other wholesome deeds, including dana, for instance. Dana is normally, it is done as a verbal or a physical act. We give dana with our hands or involving our body, or we order or ask someone to perform a dana on behalf of us. But on both these occasions, there is no restraining from unwholesome deeds. So therefore, it only involves the mind do. What is the purified do? Because when we are doing any wholesome deed, the mind gets purified. That's common to any wholesome deed. When we are doing a wholesome deed, the mind gets purified from unwholesome qualities. So the mind do is always now, even while we abstain from evil deeds done by the body, while we are abstaining from killing and lying or slandering and so forth, even at that time the mind do becomes purified. That is a universal fact in our tradition. Whenever a wholesome deed is done, the mind is purified. But in these first two cases, there is a specific attention, there's a specific restraining. We are specifically abstaining from or inhibiting ourselves from performing unwholesome deeds, bodily unwholesome deeds or verbal unwholesome deeds. So in those two cases, it is regarded that the body do and the verbal do is specially purified. So these abstaining from unwholesome bodily activities and unwholesome verbal activities are classified as kaya kamma and vachi kamma respectively, while all the other wholesome deeds, including dana and including like meditation or any other doing duties which involve like using our body, all are classified into the group of manokamma. Even preaching dhamma comes under manokamma. So this is based on the do which is being purified. So in the wholesome side, therefore in the wholesome side, there are two ways of classifying wholesome deeds as kaya, vachi and manokammas. But in the unwholesome side, since there is no do which get purified, only it get defiled, unwholesome deeds are classified only under one basis, that is according to the do by which they are performed. So that's what has been mentioned in the first paragraph. Unwholesome acts are categorized as kaya kamma, vachi kamma and mano kamma based on the do through which they arise. On the other hand, unwholesome acts are categorized in two ways: by the do they arise in, and by the do they arise in, and by the do they purify. In this section, we shall analyze the classification of kamma based solely on the do they arise in. Now our attention is the first category, not the second category. We may later attend to this category in different lectures, different lessons, but since our attention is mind-born matter, we are only focused on, because we want to talk about the relationship between karma and the mind-born matter. So therefore, we are involved in talking about the do, the karmas based on the do in which they arise. First, it is important to understand the two types of do's. Now, the do, which we call do, here the Pali rendering is dwara. Dwara. There are two types of dwara in Pali, in our tradition. Dwara. Two types of dwara. One is vijnana dwara. Then kamma dwara. Vijnana dwara are the doors that are helpful, are necessary for the consciousness to arise. Through the vijnana dwaras, objects enter into our mind stream or into ourselves, and our consciousness approaches or goes to the objects. So this is our santana mind stream, and these are the objects. They come through the doors. This is the door. Door is helpful. So door is explained or door is defined either as the place through which or the place through which the objects approach the mind, or the place through which the mind approaches objects. Both the definitions are correct. And they are very fundamental reasons, like because without an object we cannot have a consciousness according to Theravada. But in Western philosophy, yes, there can be some mental qualities, properties that do not have an object according to them. For example, emotions such as depression, or like feeling boredom. These things, according to them, doesn't have an object, but according to our Theravada tradition, each and every mental state is accompanied or is referring to some kind of a content or a object. So now mind, therefore the do's are very important, since without the encountering of with an object, the mind is never going to arise. Mind will always accompany or focus at an object. Therefore, do's are necessary. These are necessary factors for the vijnana to arise. So hence they are called vijnana dwaras. So they are the do's that are helpful for the arising of vijnana. Then we have kamma dwaras. Kamma dwaras are the doors that are helpful in accomplishing or performing karmas. Without them, karmas cannot be done. So in terms, with regard to vijnana dwara, there are 6 vijnana dwaras. They are the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and the mind, which are the faculties or the senses, as we call them. Then kamma dwara are 3. Kamma dwara is threefold, as kaya kamma dwara, kaya dwara, vachi dwara, and mano dwara. So now we are going to learn about them in brief. So the 3 kamma dwaras are kaya dwara, vachi dwara, and mano dwara. They are very fundamental in performing verbal, physical, and mental activities. So we'll read the paragraph number 427. First, it is important to understand the 2 types of do's. Do's that assist in the arising of consciousness, which we call vijnana dwara, and do's that facilitate the performance of kamma dwara. In this section, the focus will be solely on kamma dwaras. Then there are three types of realities referred to as kamma dwaras, because they serve as the fundamental cause for performing kammas. They are fundamental cause of, and no kamma can be done without them. And they are very relevant. They are very useful, or they are fundamental, or they are necessary factors in performance of karmas. In the ultimate sense, kaya dwara is the kaya viññatti, which you have studied already. Kaya viññatti. Vachi dwara is vachi viññatti, verbal intimation. Kaya viññatti is physical intimation. Mano dwara are the javana chittas. We haven't discussed about them in detail because we haven't come into the mentality section yet. We are still in the Rūpa section. Javana chittas, dynamic consciousness, as they have been translated. or some would say impulsive consciousnesses. So I don't think there is a proper translation for this term. Javana are the consciousnesses that have a greater capacity in performing actions. They are powerful. It's not that their speed is high. Every consciousness arises and vanishes in the same sequence, but they have a higher capacity in performing actions. Then these are the three doors. Kaya vinyati is the bodily intimation. We discussed in length about it, how it is employed or how it is used, how it is involved in performing physical activities. Then vachi vinyati, the verbal intimation, it modifies our words, our sound, and regulates means like modifies it and according to the intention of the person. Not the regulation actually, how it modifies the nature of the sound and how articulation, and it's very useful in communication. We need verbal intimation, otherwise we'll not be able to utter the words as we intend. And they are very fundamental. These two are very fundamental elements in our day-to-day activities, and they are no separate ultimate realities. They are just modifications, or they are just slight changes that occur in the four great elements while we are doing the verbal and physical activities. Then Javana Chittas are relevant or necessary in any verbal, physical or mental karma, because the Chetana associates these Javana Chittas, and those Javana Chittas as a mental cluster has the power in performing verbal, physical and mental activities. Even while the Kaya Dwara is involved in bodily actions, Javana Chitta has to be there. And even while kammas are done through the verbal door, with the help of Vachi Vinyati, Javana Chittas are still involved. So there is no karma without the involvement of Javana Chittas. So they are also a necessary fundamental requirement for all kammas. Kaya Vinyati and Vachi Vinyati are relevant to specifically to Kaya kammas and Vachi kammas. There are three types of realities referred to as Kaya Dwara because they serve as the fundamental causes for performing kammas. Kaya Vinyati, bodily intimation, is called the Kaya Dwara, body door, as it forms the basis, be the fundamental cause for wholesome and unwholesome volitions involved in acts such as giving donations and committing acts of killing. Because whatever the bodily actions we do, deliberate actions, which amounts to the karma, level of karma, Kaya Vinyati is a necessary factor. Vachi Vinyati, verbal intimation, is called the Vachi Dwara, verbal door, as it forms the basis for unwholesome and wholesome and unwholesome volitions involved in acts such as preaching the Dhamma and lying. It's very clear. Javana Chittas are called Mano Dwara as they are essential for all types of actions. Actions that involve intimations or vinyatis, and also the actions that do not involve vinyati, which are done purely through the mind. For instance, if we just sit down or lie down on a bed and start contemplating Buddha's attributes, or to contemplate the impermanent, suffering and non-self nature of realities, at that time there is no intimations or vinyatis are involved. At that time solely the mind is focused on contemplating the natures, or in meditation. At that time the basis, the dwara, would be solely be the Javana Chittas. But also I would like to remind again, even while we are doing bodily activities, the mind door, other than the body door, Kaya Dwara, the mind door, Mano Dwara, is also involved, because without the mind door, there cannot be any karma done according to Theravada teachings. And then these, when for instance, when someone is performing a karma, now if we give attention to the mind processes that are arising by then, at that time, Manodwara Jana Chitta arises, then it will be followed by 7 Javana Chittas. So these 7 Javanas are responsible of producing Chittakiriya Vayodhatu, and also Vayodhatu, and also Kaya Vinyati. Each and every Javana Chitta produces Kaya Vinyati. Then when we are doing a Kaya Kamma, a bodily act, these Kaya Vinyatis act as a necessary integral factor in performing the activity. Because if I recall what we have done so far, I think we have discussed this many times. If someone is intending to do a certain physical act towards something, because when you are doing a physical act, normally there is some sort of attention or a direction of the act. For instance, if someone is killing an animal, if you are killing this particular animal, our hand has to, our weapon has to move in this direction. So the body has to be doing it. So in order to do that, the air element should arise in the body, and that is the element which facilitates these bodily movements. And that air element is a production of the consciousness according to Theravada, and air could have flown to any direction. Instead, when we are doing the act, we observe, it's very evident to us, the action happens as we intend. It's very rarely that it goes out of our control unless we have a physical defect. Then why the air flew or moved towards the intended direction? Because there was a modification in the air element due to the consciousness. The consciousness is highly connected with this air element, and the air element behaves according to the consciousness. And who facilitates this behavioral change? Who facilitates this the modification according to the consciousness is the Kaya Vinyati. So that is the function of Kaya. When we are speaking outwards, we intend to speak certain ideas. So we are uttering specific words as we have learned through the language. In order to express our idea, inner feelings, we articulate words. So while we are articulating physically, the sounds have to be modified. These articulations have to be modified according to our intention. And with the sound, there arises a certain element of the four great elements, a certain change in the four great elements, which modifies, or which the word would be modified, which modifies the word according to the intention of the speaker or the Chetana. Therefore, and this sound is, according to tradition, is produced by the Chetana itself. It's a mind-born matter, and that matter contains this verbal intimation which modifies the sound. Therefore, these Vachi Vinyati and Kaya Vinyati, even in verbal and physical activities, are productions of the Chetana of the Manodvara. Chittaja Rupas, the term Chittaja Rupa implies that those Rupas are produced by Chitta. But in their production, Chitta plays a huge role. Obviously, that's why they are given the name. At the same time, Chetana is also involved in it. Chetana plays a huge role, which we cannot underestimate at any means. Therefore, normally we say Chetana is the element which produces Chitta Rupas in our physical and verbal activities, because the involvement of Chetana is very important here. Then also the Janangas play a huge role in the production of Chitta Rupas as well. The Chetana arising in mind, Javana Chittas, while doing verbal activities and physical activities, are mainly responsible for the production of Kaya Vinyati and Vachi Vinyati as well. So why did I put attention, give much attention here? According to the tradition, even prior to the Javana Chittas, Manodvara Vajana Chitta, the adverting consciousness, is also responsible of producing Kaya Vinyati. So therefore, in the Theravada teachings, sometimes the Manodvara Vajana Chitta, because the one who is responsible is the Chetana of this Chitta. But Chetana arises based on the mind, based on the Manodvara and Chitta. Chitta is a fundamental requirement for the Chetana to arise. Therefore, even the mind has been termed as the Manodvara according to Theravada teaching. So the commentators, sub-commentators, or sub-commentators say, if I precisely say it, I think sub-commentators. Number 3, yeah, sub-commentators say the Mula Tika has suggested. If you're speaking to someone outside the tradition, such as with Abhayagiri, the monks of the Abhayagiri sect and so forth, we have to confine Mindo only to Javana Chittas. But within the Theravada tradition, even the Manodvara Vajana Chitta can be termed as the Mindo, because it is the consciousness that associates, so it is the consciousness that becomes the cause for the Chetana which produces Vinyatis in verbal and physical activities. So therefore, Manodvara Vajana Chitta is also taken as Mindo in this regard. Right. So that is the additionally when performing additionally when performing acts, the Chetana of the Manodvara Vajana Chitta also produces Vinyati. Hence the Manodvara Vajana Chitta, which is the fundamental cause for the arising of that Chetana. It is the Chetana that produces Vinyati actually, is greatly involved in it, and Manodvara Vajana Chitta is a necessary factor for the Chetana. Therefore, it can also be called Manodvara, Mindo. Now, these are the three basic fundamentals that we studied. The classification of Kamma has two bases. One is based on the do based on the do with which they are performed, and one is based on the do of cleansing. The do which is being purified by the act, and this involves only the kusala side. In the akusala kammas are classified basically based on the do with which they are performed. Kusala kammas are categorized either based on the do which they are based on the do by which they are performed, or the do which is purified by those activities. Especially the purification happens, the verbal bodily purification happens when we abstain from unwholesome deeds done with the body. Verbal purification happens, purification of the verbal do happens when we abstain from evil or unwholesome acts done with words, and all the other wholesome activities are said to be purifying the mind. And then we studied there are two types of doors. There are two types of doors, Vijnana Dwara and Kamma Dwara. Vijnana Dwara are relevant and necessary for the arising of Vijnana consciousness. Kamma Dwara are necessary for the performing of karmas. There are 6 types of Vijnana Dwaras, as we all know. Then there are 3 types of Kamma Dwaras, which we just studied: Kaya Dwara, Vachi Dwara, Mano Dwara. Kaya Dwara represents Kaya Vinyati, is ultimate representation. Vachi Dwara represents Vachi Vinyati, and Mano Dwara is the Javana Chitta with which we do the activities, the kammas. And also, according to Theravada tradition, even the mind can be classified as the even the Manodvara Jana Chitta, I beg your pardon, Manodvara Jana Chitta also can be classified as the mind. And then we move on to another interesting topic, the relationship between Kaya Vinyati, Kaya Dwara, Kaya Kamma, and Kaya Kamma Dwara. There are 5 terms here. Kaya Vinyati. This is the bodily intimation. Then we have Kaya. Kaya Dwara, sorry. Kaya Vinyati, Kaya Dwara. Kaya Kamma, then Kaya Kamma Dwara. They are the 5 terms. Kaya Vinyati is the bodily intimation which we have studied, which modifies the Vayu Dhatu or the great elements while we are performing, especially the Vayu Dhatu, while we are performing bodily activities. And this Kaya Vinyati is the door for the bodily kammas, bodily activities. So, and it is also called Kaya Dwara. It's the same Kaya Vinyati is been termed as Kaya Dwara. In many sutras, Buddha has delivered, like given the phrase Kayena Duchcharitang charitva or charanti. One does evil deeds with the body. One does evil deeds with the body, right? With the help of the body. It means one is performing bodily evil deeds. In that phrase, kayena duccharitang charanti. Kayena duccharitang charanti. So the subject must be there, balo or whatever, the unwise person. Duccharitan charanti does unvirtuous acts or evil acts with the help of the body, taking body as the instrument with the body. What does it mean by what is meant by the term body? Kayena. Kaya here doesn't refer to this mass of body, the structure we see or we consider as our sarira or the physical form. Here kaya refers to kaya viññati. Kaya viññati. Here kaya refers to kaya viññati, not the entire structure of the body. Because what actually does the activity, even the body is there, unless there is kaya viññati, it is not possible to perform those bodily activities. When we analyze or investigate what is the reality which is responsible, to whom we can attribute this activity or bodily action, in the end, according to the theory of ultimacy, when you reduce it, we come and end up in the kaya viññati, because kaya viññati is the thing which modifies this vayu dhatu, which facilitates the action according to the intention of the doer, of the chetana. Then there is a combination between the final outcome and the chetana. It has happened according to the intention. So this modification is very necessary. One can argue all the evil deeds are done with the mind. Yeah, that's sure, that's obvious. But there should be some kind of instrument in that. Now the word charanti refers to the chetana. The word charanti in Theravada tradition refers to the chetana by which the action is done. Actual doer is chetana in the ultimate sense. Actual doer is chetana. If we just put balo here, the unwise person, balu. The unwise person does evil deeds with the body. And who is the actual doer? There is no such person called such thing called an unwise person. There is no such an ultimate reality. We only have mind and matter. And what is the ultimate? To whom shall we attribute this activity? Can we do it to a concept such as a wise, mean, or a unwise person? In terms of Abhidhamma, we cannot do that. Therefore, the final responsibility of the doer who has done the action, it is the chetana of that activity. But chetana cannot perform this act by itself. If it is a bodily activity, it needs the support of this entire bodily, the body in the structure that we call the body. But that also needs to behave, that too needs to behave according to the chetana. And who facilitates this bridge? Who makes this link? Who makes it sure that the body is behaving according to the intention of the person or the intention of the chetana, which is the actual doer? Chetana is the actual doer, and who facilitates, and the body is surely necessary, and who facilitates this connection is the kaya viññati. Therefore, kaya, the term kaya refers or is referring to kaya viññati in this sense. So therefore, the kaya is also kaya viññati. Kaya is also the kaya viññati. Then kaya kamma. Kaya kamma is the chetana, the bodily activity that we do. So the karma that we perform. Kaya kamma. It is true that now, according to this statement, according to what we studied before, it is the chetana, the kaya kamma is chetana, because it's a fundamental teaching. Kamma is chetana. Chetanaham bhikkave kammam vadami. But there are few other realities that can also be called karma. There are altogether 22 realities on specific occasions. But in most of the cases, especially when we are doing, when we are performing bodily and verbal activities, chetana is considered as the karma, because there are some other sutras which indicates that some other realities can also be called karma, especially the bojjhangas, maggangas, and so forth. Right? Then now it is the chetana which produces the karma. It is chetana which produces the kaya vinyati. Now, and that vinyati is necessary for the accomplishment of chetana. What does it mean? Chetana is the one which performs, produces kaya vinyati while doing bodily activities. But then the karma would be done. Kamma would be done. Now this kamma is again the chetana. Activity is again the chetana in the ultimate sense. So what happens is, for chetana to be a karma means to be a bodily activity or a verbal activity. It cannot just become a bodily or verbal activity by itself. It needs to have performed this act. Physically, some tangible, like some real activity has to happen. Otherwise, it cannot be a verbal or a physical act. And who helps the chetana to come to that level? Who makes it a verbal activity or a physical activity is the vinyati. So vinyati is necessary for the chetana to become a kaya karma or a vachi karma. Without vinyati, the mere chetana would not become a bodily or verbal activity. So therefore, then the actions done with the kaya vinyati, actions done or chetanas that are performed with the help of vinyati are called kaya kamma. So kaya kamma are the chetanas. Kaya is kaya vinyati. What kaya dwara is kaya vinyati. Kaya vinyati, now it's the name itself says it. Kaya vinyati is the kaya dwara, and itself is the kaya. The actions done with the kaya are called kaya kamma, with the help of kaya. The chetanas that amounts to the level of kaya kamma, chetana, are done with the help of kaya, because without kaya vinyati, chetana can never be classified as or qualified as a kaya karma. So therefore, the chetanas, the activities done with the help of kaya are called kaya kamma. Then what happens? These kaya kammas arise. Based on the kaya vinyati. These kaya kammas arise based on the kaya vinyati, and this kaya kamma, the place where these kaya kammas arise, place or the instrument which helps these kaya kammas to arise are called kaya kamma dwara. So kaya, this chetana was called kaya kamma. Why was it? Now, if I make it more clearer to explain the definition, there was nothing wrong in it. Anyway, kaya chetana produce kaya. Kaya is kaya vinyati. So I'll just use the word kaya within brackets. Kaya vinyati. Then the actions performed with the kaya are called kaya kamma. That is the chetana again. Chetana. And where does this chetana arise? It arises based on the kaya. It arises based on the kaya. It arises based on the kaya. Therefore, again, this kaya is called, because chetana is the kaya kamma. Chetana is the Kaya Kamma. It was designated as Kaya Kamma because of the instrumental support given by the Kaya, which is the Kaya Viññati. And these Kaya Kammas arise here. Arise means depending on them. Therefore, they are again, this Kaya is designated again based on the Kaya Kamma. The door in which Kaya Kammas arise, or the door which is helpful for the Kaya Kamma to arise, are called Kaya Kamma Dwara. It's called Kaya Kamma Dwara. Again, the Kaya Kamma, Kaya, not the Kaya Kamma, is termed as Kaya Kamma Dwara. So what has happened here? From Kaya, we go to Kaya Kamma. Again, Kaya Kamma is termed based on Kaya. And then again, this door is called Kaya Kamma Dwara because it is the place where Kaya Kammas arise. The place where Kaya Kammas occur are called Kaya Kamma Dwara. The door in which Kaya Kammas arise are called Kaya Kamma Dwara. The bodily intimation was called Kaya, and the actions done with the help of that Kaya became Kaya Kamma, and the place where those Kaya Kammas arise are called Kaya Kamma Dwara. So there is a very strange type of definitions going here. So when we encounter these terms, Kaya Viññati, Kaya Dwara, and Kaya, when it is, sometimes the Kaya can refer to the entire body, but when it comes to the realm of into the arena of bodily activities, Kaya refers to the Kaya Viññati. So all these three terms are referring to Kaya Viññati. Then Kaya Kamma are the Chetana involved or performing bodily activities. Again, Kaya Kamma Dwara is the Kaya Viññati. So those terminologies are useful when you are reading the text, especially the commentaries. You will encounter such terms, so we had to be precise on their meaning. Sometimes the Kaya Dwara is also referred to as Kaya. In the common phrase Kayena Ducharitan Charanti found in numerous suttas, the word Kaya refers to Kaya Viññati, which is also called Chopana Kaya. Another term for that is Chopana Kaya. Actions performed using the Chopana Kaya are called Kaya Kamma. Actions done with the Chopana are called Kaya Kamma, bodily actions or physical acts. They actually refers to the Chetana. For instance, physical acts such as killing are performed with the assistance of Kaya Viññati. Here, bodily intimation acts as an instrument to accomplish this Kamma. So this bodily intimation, Kaya, which is the Kaya Viññati, acts as a instrument, assistant as a instrument to accomplish the Kamma. According to Theravada teaching, some acts are termed Kaya Kamma because they are performed with the help of Kaya Viññati. The Kammas that are done with the help of Kaya Viññati are called Kaya Kamma. The location or door where Kaya Kammas occur, now they are done with the help of Kaya, right? Kaya Kammas are done with the help of Kaya Viññati, and then that instrument is the place where Kaya Kammas occur. So they are again termed as Kaya Kamma Dwara. The location or door where Kaya Kammas occur, that means through which bodily actions are performed is called the Kaya Kamma Dwara. The relationship between these definitions can be summarized as follows. Kaya Viññati is called the Kaya Dwara because it serves as the fundamental cause for various actions. Kaya Viññati is called Kaya Dwara. This Kaya Dwara is referred to as Kaya. Kaya Viññati is called Kaya Dwara, and then it is referred to as Kaya in many suttas. Actions performed using that Kaya are called Kaya Kamma. Since the same Kaya serves as the locus for these Kammas, it is also called Kaya Kamma Dwara. It's also called Kaya Kamma Dwara. So that is the definitions. So we find in Theravada. Then Vachi Viññati, Vachi Dwara, Vacha, Vachi Kamma, and Vachi Kamma Dwara has these five terms have the same type of definition. They are defined similarly. The Vachi Dwara is also referred to as Vacha. Vachi Dwara, which is the Vachi Viññati actually, right? Vachi Viññati is the Dwara. Vachi Dwara is also referred to as Vacha in the common phrase Vachaya Ducharitan Charanti. I'll just read it. Found in many suttas. The word Vacha refers to Vachi Viññati, which is also called Chopana Kaya. Then actions. No, it's not the Chopana Kaya actually. It's called I have to check it again. It's not the Chopana. Chopanakaya is the Vachi Kaya Vinyati. No. Anyway, actions performed using the Chopana Vacha, not Chopanakaya, it's Chopana Vacha. Yeah. Actions performed using the Chopana Vacha are called Vachi Kamma, verbal actions. I have to check this again. Vacha word are called Vachi Kamma, verbal actions. For instance, now the actions done with this Vacha, right? Vacha is called Vachi Kamma. For instance, verbal acts such as lying are performed with the assistance of Vachi Vinyati. Here, verbal intimation serves as the instrument to accomplish the karma. According to Theravada teaching, some acts are called Vachi Kamma because they are performed with the help of Vachi Vinyati. So, Vachi Vinyati is called Vachi Dwara, it's called Vacha. Acts done with the Vacha are called Vachi Kamma, and the place where these Vachi Kammas arise, the same Vacha or the Vachi Vinyati is called Vachi Kamma Dwara. I think it's clear. The location or do where Vachi Kamma occurs, that means the means through which verbal acts are performed is called Vachi Kamma Dwara, do of verbal actions. The relationship between the Vachi Dwara, relation between the definitions can be summarized as follows. Vachi Vinyati is called the Vachi Dwara. Vachi Vinyati is called Vachi Dwara because it serves as the fundamental cause for various actions. That Vachi Dwara is referred to as Vacha in many suttas. Actions performed using that Vacha are called Vachi Kamma. Since the same Vacha serves as the locus for the Vachi Kamma, it is also called Vachi Kamma Dwara. The mind door is essential in performing both physical and verbal actions. Volitions of kammas arise depending on Javana Chittas, because mind door is the Javana Chitta. Therefore, Javana Chittas called Manodwara are indispensable when performing Kaya Kamma and Vachi Kamma. The Chetana in the Manodwara Vajana Chitta also produces Vinyati. Hence, according to Theravada teachings, the Manodwara Vajana Chitta, which serves as the fundamental cause for its volition, is also considered a mind door. Is also considered mind door. So I'll be concluding this lecture because the time has elapsed. The time is almost there. We have reached the time. So what we discussed today is, it's very technical what we talked to today. The next lectures we'll go into more practical sides and try to understand how to define the wrong view of do and so forth, which will be very interesting. So today what we studied was akusala kammas are threefold based on the do with which they are performed, and kusala kammas are threefold on two methods, right? Based on two methods: the do with which they are performed, and also the do which they purify. Then we are only talking in this lesson. We talked only about the do of performance, and normally the term do is twofold as Vijnana Dwara and Kamma Dwara, and we only focused on the Kamma Dwara here. Then Kamma Dwara is threefold: Kaya Dwara, Vachi Dwara, and Mano Dwara. Kamma Dwara, Kaya Dwara refers to Kaya Vinyati, Vachi Dwara refers to Vachi Vinyati, Mano Dwara refers to Javana Chittas, and the Mano Dwara Javana Chitta can also be inserted in the group of Manodwara, in the category of Manodwara, because of its production of Kaya and Vachi Vinyati. Then we move on to talk about the definition. Kaya Vinyati, which is the verb bodily intimation, which modifies our actions, especially the Vayu Dhatu. It's called Kaya Dwara. Then that Kaya Dwara is also called Kaya in the tradition by the Buddha. That's how we interpret the sutra actually. Then the actions done with that Kaya are called Kaya Kamma, and the place where that Kaya Kammas arise, that is to say the same Kaya Vinyati, is called Kaya Kamma Dwara. The same way Vachi Vinyati is called Vachi Dwara, and that's also called Vacha in many sutras, and the actions done with that Vacha are called Vachi Kamma, and those that Vacha, the Vachi Vinyati itself, is the place where Vachi Kammas are done. So it's called Vachi Kamma Dwara as well. Then we have a relationship between intimation and two types of karmas. If I start this, it will take some time. So I'll keep it for the next week. I'll be using the same handout. And I'll continue next day, because what is the relationship between these realities and the karmas? Vachi dwara. This is the vachi vinyati and kaya vinyati. So what is its relationship with the kaya kamma? It is necessary for the accomplishment. Without the vinyatis, one is never able to accomplish the vachi kamma or kaya kamma. At the same time, they help for the name giving. Why the actions are defined as kaya kamma and vachi kamma is because of this vinyati. So there are two types of relationships. The kaya kamma and vachi kamma are accomplished only because of the bodily and verbal intimations respectfully. Then also they are given the name based on these bodily intimations, bodily and verbal intimations. And there are so, and then we also see a mingling of these do's. For instance, sometimes killing can be done using the verbal do, and acts such as lying can be done using the body do as well. So how to understand this? But still in the tradition, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct are classified as kaya kamma, while lying, slandering, harsh word, and vain talk has been classified as vachi kamma. But still they can occur in other in the other do as well. So how do we classify? How do we keep this classification without breaking the fundamentals? So we'll be talking about them in the next lecture. I hope you enjoyed it. So I give you the chance to ask questions.
Hello everyone. Now is the time for the Q&A session. Please raise your hand and ask the question briefly. So many listeners would get the opportunity to ask the questions. First is Kitsiri Vijay Sundara. Please go ahead.
May I have your permission, sir? Theravada Saranai. My question is really, probably I don't know whether you are planning to explain it in the next lecture, but it's about karma and karma patha. Now, when a karma to become a karma patha, what is explained and what I have studied from various literature is that mostly it is kaya karma and vachi karma. So a particular karma which includes only the manodwara will ever become a karma patha is my question.
Yes, abhijja, vyapada, michaditti can become karma patha without the involvement of a body or the words. They can become. So there are karma pathas in the wholesome and unwholesome side that are solely done with the mind or without the involvement of body or the words.
Right.
And they can bring rebirth as well.
Thank you very much, sir. Theravada Saranai.
Okay, if there's no questions, so we can conclude the lecture and we'll do the remaining part next week. So with this merit of discussing Dhamma, may all of us be able to understand Dhamma deeply and attain our final liberation, and may this also be a supporting factor for the prolongation of the Buddha Sasana. Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.